Thanks to MPB for sponsoring this video. Hi, I'm Gordon from Camera Labs, and this is my first looks review of the Fujifilm X-T30 Mark III, a compact interchangeable lens camera aimed at beginners or anyone who simply wants a small body with a viewfinder. Note, Fujifilm writes the name as X-T30 III, but that's quite hard to read out loud without sounding like you're saying X-T30 III. So to avoid any confusion, I'm just going to call it the Mark III in this video. Announced in October 2025, it's the replacement for the X-T30 Mark II, which came out 4 years previously. But eagle-eyed Fuji fans will, however, know this model already had a successor with the X-T50 from 2024. But that model was pitched higher in specification and price, leaving a gap for a more affordable model, especially since the X-T30 Mark II isn't available in all regions. So today the X-T30 has effectively split into two options with a similar looking compact design, but different innards and very different price points. The higher end X-T50, launched a year earlier, packs the latest 40 megapixel sensor with IBIS and costs around £1,300 or $1,600 for the body alone. Meanwhile, the new X-T30 Mark III pairs the previous 26 megapixel sensor with the latest X processor V05, and like the Mark II, it lacks IBIS to keep costs down. So basically it's an X-T30 Mark II with a new image processor, and that in turn equips it with better subject detection, the latest set of film simulations, and improved battery life. Crucially, this allows it to maintain a lower price point of £830 or approximately $1,000 for the body alone, and that's roughly similar to the X-T30 Mark II, and a saving of around £470 or $600 over the X-T50. This also makes it the cheapest camera in Fujifilm's current X series lineup with a viewfinder. So not bad if you're satisfied with 26 megapixels and can live without IBIS. And if you are concerned about wobbles from camera shake, remember there are lenses with optical stabilization, or you could do what we all used to do by simply using faster shutter speeds on photos, or of course deploying digital stabilization on video in order to avoid any shake on those lenses that don't have OIS. I had a chance to try it out, and in this first looks review I'm going to show you around it and what's new. And this will also include a look at the new 13 to 33mm kit zoom that was launched alongside it, which, as luck would have it, includes optical stabilization. As always, if you're considering a new camera, you can raise some money by selling any old gear that you don't use anymore, which brings me to the sponsor of this video, MPB. Now, I've bought and sold used camera gear for many years with MPB, long before they supported my channel, and I keep returning for their simplicity and peace of mind. So when it's time to change gear, I love how easy MPB makes the process. When selling, you don't need to create a listing, take photos of the product, or deal with questions or haggling from multiple buyers. Just enter the item name into their website and its condition, and MPB will give you an instant quote. If you approve this quote, they can arrange collection, and if they find the condition to be better than described, they'll even increase your payment. Or, since the Mark III represents a mild refresh over its predecessor, you may find a bargain on a used Mark II, perhaps saving enough to bag a new lens to go with it. So whether you're selling anything you don't need anymore, or looking to change gear and buy used from a source that you can trust, check out mpb.com using the link in the description. Right, back to the review. The X-T30 Mark III looks a lot like the Mark II before it, although it's now available in three colours: silver, black and charcoal. Which is your favourite? Like its predecessor, it's styled like a mini X-T5 with a central viewfinder head and plenty of dials to turn. You can see it here fitted with the new 13 to 33mm f3.5 to 6.3 kit zoom, which retracts to just 38mm thick. This combination also weighs just over 500 grams, which feels really light in person and is sufficiently compact to slip into large pockets or small bags, while still sporting a pretty reasonable grip. Note that this camera is not weather sealed, but then neither is the more expensive X-T50. For that from Fujifilm, you're going to need something like the X-T5 or higher. The top panel is packed with dials providing direct control over key settings, although there's also a switch to put it into full automatic with a single click, which is great for beginners, spontaneous shots, or simply handing the camera over to someone else to take a photo. These dials start on the left hand side with one dedicated to Fujifilm's eternally popular film simulations. So you have direct access to 6 of the most popular presets, or access to the full 20 via the custom position and menus. There's also 3 custom FS banks, which you can assign with your favourites from the full list, or you can make your own original recipe through the menus. And you're also able to set which filter is going to be used for the Acros black and white mode. Red's my particular favourite for darkening blue skies. Now, the Film Sim dial does come at the cost of the previous drive mode dial, and this was a controversial switch on the earlier XT50, especially considering its price point, but I feel it's more appropriate for the target market of the XT30 Mark II. Of course, a blank dial that could be customised would be more flexible, but part of the charm of this series is having dials that are dedicated to specific functions. And remember, there's still the XS and XH series if you prefer an alternative approach. I do know that you're all going to have a strong opinion about this, so let rip in the comments. In the middle, atop the viewfinder head, is a hot shoe with a sync speed of 180th of a second. The XT30 Mark III also includes a pop-up flash, a useful feature missing on many higher-end models in the series. To the right of the viewfinder head is the dedicated shutter speed dial, running between 4,000th of a second and 1 second, with the T mode accessing faster speeds when you're using the electronic shutter mode, or slower ones for really easy long exposures, and that's one of my favourite features across Fujifilm's cameras. Again, notice that lever around the shutter dial to switch the camera in and out of full auto mode. This unlocks not only an auto subject detection option, but also an auto film simulation mode which can choose for you based on the recognised subject or scene. As before, auto is a very effective mode that works as an instant don't panic switch, although again I do wish the auto subject detection option was also available in other modes, as it really does work well for general use, and it means that you don't need to manually choose between, say, human and animal as the subject. Auto Film Sim is also only available in the full auto mode, but I'm not so bothered about missing out on that in the other modes because, well, I like to select them manually, and you've got that dial to help you. To the right is a shutter release that's threaded for vintage cable releases if you like, with a power collar around it. And on the far right is a dedicated exposure compensation dial with a plus or minus 3 EV range or a C position to increase that spread. As before, there are also front finger and rear thumb dials, both of which can be push to click for other functions. For example, the front wheel can be clicked to cycle between adjusting the lens aperture, the ISO sensitivity, or depending on your mode, the exposure compensation. Turning to the rear, you'll find the Q button on the raised thumb rest, which provides quick access to common functions, and thankfully avoids those accidental presses of the first model in this series. In the absence of a drive mode dial though, you can now access these options like video and all of the bracketing modes by pushing the delete button in the top left corner and then using the joystick to scroll through the options. Bonus points, by the way, for keeping a joystick on a 3-figure camera, when many of the more affordable models out there do lack them. Composition is with an electronic viewfinder or a vertically tilting touchscreen, and both appear to share the same specification as the Mark II. So for the viewfinder, you're getting a 2.36 million dot OLED panel with 0.62 times magnification, coincidentally the same as the XT50. It's not the largest or most detailed view out there, but it is fair for the price point and it is in line with rival models. Meanwhile, the screen is the same 3-inch panel as the Mark II with 1.62 million dots, so both remain slightly lower than the XT50. As before, this can angle up by 90 degrees for waist level shooting or when you've got the camera low to the ground, or angle down by about 45 degrees for easier framing at higher positions. It won't, however, flip out to face you, so if you do want that functionality, you're going to need more of a hybrid model like the XM5 or the XS20. Behind the flap on the side, you'll find 3 ports, a 2.5mm jack that can support remote control accessories or external microphones, although the latter are most likely going to require an adapter. There's also a USB-C port and micro HDMI. The USB port is used for charging as well as data transfer and allows the camera to be used as a webcam. It'll also work as a headphone output, but since compatibility can be variable, Fujifilm considerately bundles an adapter for 3.5mm earphones. Thank you very much. Under the camera, you'll find the battery and card compartment, with the Mark III unsurprisingly powered by the same NPW126S pack as its predecessor, albeit now with roughly 10% longer life thanks to the less peckish image processor. The compartment is also where you'll find the SD card slot, although do note the position of the tripod thread alongside, meaning that access will almost certainly become blocked when it's mounted. Moving on to the sensor, the XT30 Mark III employs the same 26 megapixel X-Trans CMOS 4 as the Mark II, and like that model, it lacks built-in stabilization, or IBIS for short. This sensor is, however, now coupled with the latest X processor V, or 5 though, and that gives you improved subject detection, longer battery life, well, a little bit longer, and the current set of film simulations. This pairing has been seen before on the XM5 and XS20, so the image quality is well known. I will be showing you some samples later on, but you can also check samples out from these other models for an idea of what kind of quality to expect. Is 26 megapixels enough? Only you can say. But as someone who personally shoots with the same sensor in an X100V, I'm perfectly satisfied by the quality. And while IBIS is always nice to have on an interchangeable lens camera, I think I actually prefer having that lower price point. That said, the X-T30 Mark III was launched alongside a new kit zoom which does feature optical image stabilization, the XC 13-33mm f3.5 to 6.3 OIS, and this adds about $150 or pounds to the price when bought as a bundle. This lens should also go on sale in early 2026 for £330 or $400, so that's quite a saving you'll have when you buy it in a kit. It's a really compact lens, measuring just 38mm thick when fully retracted and weighing only 147 grams. Now the zoom ring must be twisted to extend the barrel for use, after which it'll deliver a range that's roughly equivalent to 20 to 50mm. So while it won't reach as far as the previous 15 to 45, it does start wider that some, especially videographers, are going to prefer. The menus look much the same as existing bodies using the same image processor, so there's plenty of opportunities to tweak those settings if desired. But if you delve into the quality pages, you'll notice some new options. As you scroll through the resolution and aspect ratio list, notice new options at the end for Instax Mini, Instax Square and Instax Wide. These set the camera to record compressed JPEG or HIF images in a shape that exactly matches those three instant formats for direct printing, so there's no surprises or unwanted cropping. Here's how those three formats look, and you may wonder why there's an Instax Square option in addition to existing 1:1 modes, when both of course deliver the same shape image. Now don't worry, Fujifilm's not gone mad or duplicated the options. The reason here is the three Instax modes also shoot at a reduced resolution that's sufficient for printing in that instant format. Note that if you're shooting JPEG plus RAW, the RAW file will remain uncropped and recorded at the full resolution, but if you're shooting in RAW alone, the Instax options probably won't be available, and that's in line with how other Fujifilm cameras work. As for printer compatibility, the X-T30 Mark III should directly connect to any of the current Instax Link printers over Bluetooth, Mini, Square and Wide, although I'm confirming whether this also includes the very first Mini Link models or only the more recent ones. As for autofocus, the Mark III inherits the subject detection of the latest models, which continues to keep humans separate from the extended list of things like animals and vehicles. Now I realise this is because human detection was developed prior to the other subject types, but it can still be a bit confusing for new owners to enable them from different menu options that then effectively override each other. And again, why can't we have the auto subject option in the normal shooting modes? It just works really well and I'd like to have it. Moving on to video, the Mark III again inherits the modes from other models with the same 26 megapixel sensor and X processor V or 5. So you're getting 1080 or 4K video from 24 to 60p in either standard 16:9 or wider 17:9 DCI formats, as well as some taller 9:16 1080 options for vertical framing. As before, frame rates of 50 and 60p incur a mild crop, I believe it's 1.1 times. The Mark III also offers a 6.2K option up to 30p in the open gate format that records the full height of the 3x2 sensor area, and that in turn gives you greater flexibility when reframing in post. It's also worth noting that while the higher end 40 megapixel models in the range also typically have a 6K video mode, it's cropped into widescreen and shape, so it's actually only the 26 megapixel models from Fujifilm that offer the taller open gate shape. If you're after higher speeds, 1080 up to 120p is also available. Here's how 4K 25p video looks with the new 13 to 33mm, using a combination of both optical IS in the lens and standard digital stabilization in the body. The latter does incur a mild crop, but in my test so far it's worth it with this lens unless you're either really steady or you really want the widest coverage. You can see the optical range of the lens here, and like most budget kit zooms, the light transmission does vary a bit throughout the range while you're zooming, even when the aperture is fixed, such as a f8 in this clip. The 13mm wide end of the lens is also ideal for vlogging, and while you can't see yourself on the screen, you can rely on the camera's face detection to mostly keep you sharp. This was filmed with the lens OIS only. And now for a version filmed with optical and digital movie stabilization, where the view is steadier, albeit cropped to become a bit on the tighter side. I am, however, holding the camera with two hands, so your mileage will vary, especially if you can hold it steadily with one hand. Ultimately, the Mark III is not designed as a vlogging camera, but it is certainly possible to use it in this way. Right, now for my verdict so far, along with some photo samples from the camera and the new zoom. The X-T30 Mark III is a compact vintage-styled camera and the most affordable model in Fujifilm's current X series with a built-in viewfinder. It represents a mild refresh over the previous X-T30 Mark II, sharing the same 26-megapixel APS-C sensor without IBIS, with the biggest upgrade being the latest X processor VR5. This in turn improves subject detection and battery life, while also offering the full set of film simulations. In addition, the Mark III offers direct printing to compatible instax link printers with new image settings to match the mini, square or wide shapes, as well as a deeper buffer for burst shooting. Meanwhile, swapping the old drive dial for one dedicated to film sims will please some, but maybe not others. As such, it's not a huge departure from the model it replaces, but it is priced roughly the same, and that fills an important gap in the series, especially as the X-T30 Mark II isn't available in every region, and has now effectively become discontinued. And this is crucial, as while the X-T50 did give you 40 megapixels with IBIS, it did so with a substantial price hike, repositioning this as a higher end option as opposed to a direct replacement for more of a budget camera, at least budget in Fujifilm's terms. In my time with the Mark III, I was reminded of the charm of this series. It looks great with all the dials and is truly light and compact. Couple it with a suitably small lens and it'll easily slip into small bags or big pockets. As someone who shoots with the X100V, I can also tell you I'm perfectly happy with 26 megapixels, and I can also live without IBIS, although your mileage may vary. Certainly, while the new kit zoom does include optical stabilization to help iron out any wobbles, I'd be tempted to pair the Mark III with a nice small pancake prime lens. So while the Mark III isn't groundbreaking, it remains an attractive and enjoyable camera to use, and crucially meets a more affordable price point than many recent releases. It may initially be pitched at beginners stepping up from, say, a phone, but I reckon there's plenty of other Fuji fans who are going to be tempted. As always, I'd love to hear what you think in the comments, but do remember Fujifilm does offer plenty of alternative cameras for those who prefer different styles or approaches, especially to exposure control. Thanks for watching, and thanks also to MPB for sponsoring this video. If you have any used gear to buy, sell or trade, check them out at mpb.com or using the links in the description. See you next time. Bye bye.